Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. It's so wonderful to be back here at the Talmud Lunch and Learn. We have some new faces here. It's great to see you. Thank you for joining us. And I would like to, before we begin our regular programming, our regular Talmud study, I would like to share just a little thought of Torah with our friends online. So this week's Parsha we know is Parsha's Vayikra. It's the beginning of the book of Leviticus, of Vayikra. And we mentioned earlier this week that Moses, in his humility, made the Aleph, the first in the first word of this week's Torah portion, he made the Aleph small. So it's not that God sort of summoned him and that would be a very honorable status, but rather that he happened to be there and God spoke to him. So Moses wanted it to be more of a happenstance type of perspective instead of it being, which is interesting because the name of the book is Vayikra, right? Mm-hmm. Meaning he couldn't get away from it, right? It happens to be that. Okay, so there's another thought I want to share about this week's parsha. In this week's parsha, we see a lot about the offerings, right? We slaughter animals and birds and different types of offerings, and there's it's like the sin offering, and there's a Thanksgiving offering, and there's like just all of these, a guilt offering. And we think to ourselves, what are these offerings? So, like yesterday, I was listening. I was at a class being taught by the Honorable Rabbi Wolbe, my dear brother, my younger brother. And he shared an idea, and I'm not going to share it exactly the way he said it. I'm sharing it the way I understood it. But the idea of offerings, number one, is that prayer is exactly the same as bringing an offering. What is a prayer? A prayer, essentially what it does, is it opens up channels heavenlyward, upward. And while God brings us blessings down, think of it as like a pipe, okay? So you have a pipe going down, right? Coming from God. God gives us ear to breathe. God gives us all the blessings that we have. God gives us everything that we have coming to us. Our livelihood. He gives us our happiness and our joy and our health and everything that we have. What do we have channel going up? What channel do we have going up? Well, we create that channel through prayer. Or, in the time of the temple, the time of the tabernacle, through offerings. Right? We have to create it's like, one of the examples my brother gave is like when you pour a bottle, right? There has to be oxygen, right? So that it has to be two ways. You can't have everything going out or everything going in, right? You have to have a two-way street. It has to be a two-way street. God is sending the blessing down. How are we sending our thanks up, our appreciation? We have to open up that channel. And that's what offerings were. But that's what today we don't have offerings. Hopefully it'll be restored in our temple in Jerusalem, right above the Western Wall. We'll see a beautiful third temple being built, hopefully, someday soon. But that's the purpose of all those offerings, was to create a channel of communication, so to speak, between us and the Almighty. Now, I want to point on prayer for a second that I find that many, many people don't understand what prayer is, and therefore they don't enjoy or appreciate the opportunity we have to pray. Many times I speak to people and they're like, Rabbi, I love this Judaism thing, but the praying is a little bit overdone. It's like a little bit too much, So first is, prayer doesn't need to be done in a synagogue. Prayer doesn't need to be done only with the minyan. Prayer does not need to be done only at certain times. Prayer is always, it's constant, and prayer can be any place. You can be sitting by your kitchen table and praying, talking to God. Praying means having a conversation with God. You can be at a stoplight, right, at a red light, and praying. You could be at the beach and praying. You could be wherever you are. You could be, walking down the hallway at your office and praying. Praying is having a conversation, a discussion with God. Now, so why do we have a minyan and why do we have a synagogue? The reason we do that is because if you're asking someone for a favor, right? So if it's just one-on-one, it's easy for them to say, you know what, no, not interested, right? Don't bother me. But 10 people come and they ask, it's not so easy to say no. And that's the idea, is when we come to pray, we're asking God, give us health, give us success, give us wisdom, give us forgiveness, right? Give us our redemption, give us healing, give us our livelihood, restore mishpat, which is judgment, that we should have proper judgment in the world, etc., etc. Prayer, the idea of prayer is that we're asking God to bestow upon us all of these wonderful favors. And that, it works better with a quorum. But if we don't have a minyan, then still, wherever we are, we can pray. And we should pray. On the treadmill. You're on the treadmill, pray. No, that's not a problem. Again, it's a conversation that we have with God which should never end. It should be a constant relationship. It should be a constant discussion, a constant conversation. And hopefully we will all continue to grow and connect through our own offerings of prayer. Today we don't have the physical offerings, but we have the spiritual offerings, and that's what we do through our prayer. And all of our prayers should continue to be answered, because the Talmud tells us that she'en tfilatan shel Yisrael chozeret rikan. There's no prayer that returns empty. There's no such thing as a prayer returning empty. Never. Every prayer that you ask, every prayer you ask for something, it's guaranteed that you will be answered. Now, the answer may be no. I will tell you a story, though. I was in 8th grade when this story happened. I was in 8th grade, and a guest rabbi, came to my yeshiva, and he was talking about prayer, and he said precisely this same idea, that it's a conversation. You just talk to God for whatever it is that you need, and Hashem answers you. So right after the lecture, we were going into our secular studies, and I had remembered, we were going to Mincha, to the Mincha service, the afternoon services, and then to the classes. And I had remembered that my teacher told me that if I don't do my homework, he's throwing me out. Okay? And it's not something that a nice Jewish boy like myself would like to be thrown out of class. Right? You know it. So I remembered this, and then we had the Mincha services, the afternoon prayer, and I remember in the middle of my prayer, I said, Hashem, please, I don't want to be thrown out, right? I really don't. Can you help me here? Can you save me? That was the one day in that year that the teacher forgot to collect homework. Right? You think it's like, oh, it's coincidence. It's not coincidence. Hashem heard my prayer and he answered me. And I made sure to have my homework after that. But we have to know that there is a tremendous, and as an 8th grader, I was like, wow. Prayer really works. It really works.
Change your whole life.
And yeah, that's right. And from that point on, I was committed. Either way, so my friends, have a wonderful Shabbos. Thank you for joining us. You're always welcome every Friday, 12 p.m. Even next week, by the way, where it's the day after Purim. Some have a custom of drinking and things like that because it's a special mitzvah. You know what? We're still going to be teaching Talmud here at 12 o'clock non-stop. So, exactly. So, thank you so much for joining us. Have an amazing Shabbos.